ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
It is Friday, July 12th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're going to get you set up this hour with our text line. That's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coming up on the program today, we're going to be speaking with the West Forsyth High School boys basketball coach, Fredrick Hurt. He's going to join us today about 5:15. We're going to talk about incoming Marshall men's basketball freshman Will Moore. Also, his brother Grant Moore is going to be walking on with the Thundering Herd, and we already have roster numbers. The Thundering Herd putting that out earlier today on the basketball account. Will Moore is going to be number 12. Grant Moore is going to be number 14. So we're going to talk about both those individuals here in the next few minutes. Interesting story about Will Moore. You have to go back a ways. I'm not sure too many of you were around during Marshall basketball before Cam Henderson. I don't think so. But Fredrick Hurt's grandfather, Fred Hurt, played basketball at Marshall right before Cam Henderson took over the program, 1933 to 1935. And his father is Howard Hurt. He also played at Woodrow Wilson. So there's sort of a basketball heritage tradition going on. And then, of course, that's how you know more about Marshall University, and that's probably a big reason why Will Moore is making his way to Huntington. So Fredrick Hurt joins us in the next few minutes. Until then, we'll get the text line open for you, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Baseball yesterday, the Pirates got the win over the Brewers 1-0. Paul Swann had a 7 no-hit inning performance and 11 strikeouts. He could have went the distance, but of course the pitch count is always going to get you in the end. The Bucks are on the road tonight against the White Sox, 7:45. You can listen to it right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And now Skeens, the 2023 first overall draft pick, has been named the National League's All-Star Game starter. That is something. His record's 6-0 now. He's got a 1.90 ERA. He has struck out 89 batters in 66 and a third innings of work. The most strikeouts with a sub-2 ERA through 11 starts since the ERA became an official stat in 1913. He's now one of the top contenders for NL Rookie of the Year. And there's some talk that maybe a Cy Young is in his future. Pirates are lucky to have him. And again, he's going to be the starter for the All-Star Game. We'll have that on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. That's going to be a Cold Cats night. We'll have that game here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. That's coming up next week. Speaking of the Cold Cats, they got the win over Elizabethton, 9-2. Final game of the series tonight coming up. And the Cold Cats are also aiming for the third sweep of the season. Cold Cats with that victory after Elizabethton took an early 2-0 lead in the second inning with a Kevin Hall Jr. 2-run double. Tri-State responded in the fourth inning, cut the deficit to 2-1. And then the Cold Cats opened up the game in the fifth inning, scored 6 runs to lead 7-2. Starting pitcher Kenyon Collins settled in after the first inning, pitched 5 innings with 5 strikeouts, 3 hits, and 2 walks. In the sixth inning in that game, Michael Rodriguez's double and Cooper McKenzie's RBI single extended the lead to 8-2, and then Trent Alderman added a sacrifice fly in the seventh inning, and that was the Cold Cats' 9th run. Bullpen was pretty solid, actually. 4 shutout innings from Jeff Martz, Mason Bell, and Ben Rabiton, and Tri-State now improves to 12-20 with back-to-back wins. Elizabethton falls to 12-19. Here's what the standings look like in the Appy League. Danville still leads the East with a 12-11 mark, followed by Bluefield with a 19-13 record. Burlington is 17-15, followed by Pulaski at 15-16, and then Tri-State with that 12-20 mark. In the West, Greenville leads the way with a 19-11 mark. Johnson City's right behind them. They're 500, 15-15. Kingsport, 15-16. They're third in the West. And then the River Riders, Elizabethton, they're sitting at 12-19 now. And the Bristol State Liners, they hold up the rear at 12-20. So Coldcats are in action tonight. They're on the road this weekend. And then they'll be back home for a series on Tuesday and Wednesday. And we'll have those games for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Staying with baseball, let's get you caught up on what happened in the Atlantic League yesterday. Charleston got the win over Gastonia 8-4. So the Dirty Birds are opening up a series at Southern Maryland tonight. So Charleston looks like it's doing well right now. Tri-State starting to get itself back on the winning track. And the Pirates got the win over the Brewers yesterday. We're going to talk Marshall basketball with you when we continue. We're going to hear from Fredrick Hurt. He was Will Moore's coach at West Forsyth High School. We'll talk to him. He's got an interesting heritage with Marshall basketball. It's one I want to get into. We'll talk about Will, but the more I learn about Frederick's family, the more I want to know. So we're going to talk about that when we continue. And we'll get your text in 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That is our text line to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Giovanni's Pizza. Fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Our Kindred Communications family of stations reminds you of the need for blood donations to the Red Cross. Blood is always needed. It may save your life or the life of a loved one. This reminder is brought to you in part by
Marshall Orthopedics, the Tri-State's leader for orthopedic care. MarshallHealth.org/orthopedics. Mount West Community and Technical College. Go far, close to home with Mount West Community and Technical College in Huntington. Online at mctc.edu. Lulu's, the Tri-State's premier smoke shop.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay, Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The Forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Friday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Time to welcome to the program now the high school coach of Will Moore. He'll be playing for the Thundering Herd this fall from West Forsyth High School. Boys basketball head coach Fredrick Hurt joins us. And Fredrick, you've got an interesting background. We're finding out more and more about you and your connections to Marshall. It's always a connection or two, and you've got some interesting ones. Your grandfather, Fred, played Marshall basketball back in the 1930s. He was there prior to Coach Henderson. I mean, that's a pretty nice thread to have.
Yeah, quite a while back, before I have any memory, but yeah, my grandfather was always proud of his Marshall roots, and my dad growing up in West Virginia, so yeah, definitely some connections there.
What did he talk about? I'm sure he reminisced a little bit about his playing days, or what did he share with you that you can share with us?
You know, I was very young when he passed, so I learned more about his playing days after he passed from my dad and my grandmother. I just know he was a super proud father of his son, my father. So usually that's what he talked about, was that kind of stuff.
Your father also played basketball. So you've got connections to Marshall, you've got connections to West Virginia, and I'm sure that really helped open some doors for Marshall when then Coach D'Antoni was recruiting Will Moore, who's going to be playing for the Thundering Herd. Yeah, how did those threads get pulled a little bit? Did Coach D'Antoni know when you mentioned that? Did he already have an idea that there was some heritage in the family talking to you before he started recruiting Will?
No, not at all. It was none of these connections were even brought up until after they were seriously involved with Will. But the connections were great, talking to the assistants and D'Antoni with those connections. But they were very interested in Will way before any of this, and they did a great job recruiting him. They were on our campus a lot, and they really put in the time and made the connections with Will and Will's family.
So you were obviously really helpful when Marshall came knocking on Will's door. You've got that connection there. And so Will's coming to play basketball for the Thundering Herd. What can you tell us about him? First of all, what kind of young man is he?
Well, you're getting a great young man that has a big heart. I mean, I got tons of examples, but we do things with our team, volunteering. You know, we don't get to do as much as college teams do, but we still do that stuff for our guys. And there's a program in our area called the Miracle League where the special needs kids play baseball and softball, and we go out and volunteer, and each one of my players gets a buddy that they help. And Will is amazing when we go do those things. He just really just shines and brightens their day, and it just warms my heart. Now, a bunch of my kids are good at that, but Will really stood out with that. There's all kinds of examples. Like, here's another one. You probably already know this, but he missed his entire junior season with an injury. So we're getting ready to play a game, and our athletic director tells Will, said, hey, sitting over there in the front row is our school's original principal, this 75-year-old man who's from Indiana. And at that time, Indiana State had just offered Will. And so our AD said, you know, why don't you go over and just say hello to him? Well, during our entire pregame warm-up, 15 minutes of warm-up, Will is standing over there, a 17-year-old kid, talking to a 75-year-old man that he doesn't know. And for 15 minutes, they engage back and forth, and both of them are laughing, and just shows you, you know, how easily Will can get along with other people. Doesn't matter the setting or whatever.
My guest is Fredrick Hurt. He's the West Forsyth High School boys basketball head coach. We're talking about Will Moore. He is a 6'7" guard coming out of Cumming, Georgia. We know the stat. We know the scout. He's regarded highly. He's known for his length. He's known for his athleticism. He's got a huge vertical. What don't we know about him as far as what kind of player he is, and what kind of player do you think he's going to develop into?
Well, he's extremely competitive, which to play Division I basketball you have to be. And you didn't mention, but he is an elite shooter. He can really stroke it. The range is not an issue, so him adjusting from the high school line to the college line, and then you added athletic ability to go with it, it makes him really dangerous.
So obviously he fits in that Marshall system. Where do you anticipate him being, or has he had those conversations kind of where the coaching staff think he fits in best?
Well, from everything I've been told is they are excited about the potential of him contributing. Now, how soon, that a lot has to do with this summer, and he's already spent one part of the summer up there. He's back home in Georgia now for a few days, and we'll be going back up to Marshall for the second part of the summer. So I think this summer has a lot to do with how soon he'll help.
My guest is Fredrick Hurt, head coach at West Forsyth High School. Will Moore will be coming to Marshall. And you mentioned this earlier, and of course, we got the roster numbers today, so everyone's excited about that. This isn't the only kid that's coming from your part of the woods. His brother is walking on, Grant Moore, so he's going to be number 14. We got the numbers today. William Moore is going to be number 12. Yeah. What made his brother want to walk on with the Thundering Herd?
Well, Grant had a really good high school career and then went to Columbus State, a nice D2 school here in Georgia, and then just had 2 straight years of injury. And I think they were just looking for a fresh start, and this just kind of all worked out perfect. He's recovering. He has now recovered from his second surgery of his injuries, and, I think he's going to do nothing but get better and better. They are 2 different types of players, but they are both long and both very athletic.
How would you scout Grant if you were trying to break him down for a scouting report?
Grant is a little more physical. Grant grew up playing more inside, and Will grew up more as a guard. That's the biggest difference. When Will was a sophomore, they both were on our varsity team together. It was our school's most successful season we'd ever had. And Will started starting about halfway through that year, so they both were on the court for us. Grant was more of a finisher around the basket, more of a rebounder, and Will was more of the shooter. But, of course, Will's senior year, Will did everything for us as well.
Pretty competitive or complimentary of each other's game?
Oh, they're complimentary of each other's game. But, they're brothers, so they are competitive too.
So that's a good story, because now you have a couple of brothers going to be on the same team. Makes it work for him. What are the impressions of Huntington and Marshall? Obviously, they're coming, so they liked it here, but what were their impressions initially?
Well, they like the idea of the coaching staff feel, how they made them feel. Now, as far as Huntington itself, they like, their family is originally from Colorado, so they like that kind of atmosphere and that kind of mountain feel, so that was attractive to them also. But it was more about the coaching staff and the program that really drew them there. And then once they went on their visit, they just loved everything about it.
Anything in particular that maybe stood out to them, or we're always curious. What do these young men want to do when basketball's over? Was there anything in particular that maybe helped seal the deal for Marshall in that regard?
No, not really. I mean, Will might give you a better answer than, but what I know, they liked the visits, they liked the coaching staff, and when they went on campus, they really liked the town and the campus.
You mentioned coaching staff a couple minutes ago, made those guys feel really part of it. Recent coaching change from Dan D'Antoni to Cornelius Jackson, so a smooth transition there. Did that have any concern for anybody, or was Coach Jackson just right there making sure these kids knew what was going on?
I think there was a split second of concern just because something got out before all the coaches could connect with the recruits. But that was like Will called me, but within 10 minutes one of the assistants at Marshall had already contacted me and Will. So it was a short hiccup, but very short.
My guess is Fredrick Hurt. He is the head coach of West Forsyth High School. Will Moore coming to Huntington, and of course his brother as well, Grant Moore. And Fredrick has amazing connections to the state of West Virginia. Your father also knows Marshall assistant coach Adam Williams. Your family played in the state of West Virginia. Your grandfather, as we mentioned, played basketball at Marshall. Does that mean we're going to get to see you and the family come back this way anytime soon to see a little bit more of Will?
My dad's really excited to get up there to watch a game, and so I'm certainly going to be going with him. Of course, it's got to work around my season, but yes.
Let's talk about your season briefly. Now that you don't have Will, who's stepping up and who's maybe a potential future Thundering Herd player from your roster?
That's a great question. Well, this year, Will's senior year, we were a senior dominant team. We have another graduate that's going to play at West Georgia, a school that is just becoming D1. We had another graduate that had multiple D2 opportunities but decided just to go to school at a bigger school. So we had a good team this year, but we graduate all our starters. So we are going to look different, be different, play faster than we have played. We've always played fast, but we're going to be smaller, so we're going to play even faster next year.
So Will's pretty much a good fit. From what you maybe know about the Sun Belt, you would think Will's a good fit for Marshall basketball in this league.
Yes, I think he's a great fit.
My guest is Fredrick Hurt. He's the head coach of West Forsyth High School, and his father also playing for the Thundering Herd back in the 30s. Before I let you go, I want to dig deeper into him just for a moment. What kind of career did he have? Because you know how records are from the 30s. You don't know as much about some of these players. According to the stories, was he all-world? What was he like?
Well, so my grandfather, again, it was my grandfather that played there, and I don't know a lot of the details. He started out at Virginia Tech, which wasn't called Virginia Tech back then, and then finished at Marshall playing there. I do have a picture of him in a Marshall uniform, but I don't think he was a star by any means. Whereas my dad went on to, when he played, not at Marshall, but when he played, he was very successful. It's more about my dad being proud of my grandfather than me actually hearing stuff from my grandfather. But I do have that picture. I'm going to share it with Will of my grandfather in a Marshall uniform.
That's amazing. That's a great story there. And of course, for a lot of people, they don't know much about Marshall basketball prior to Cam Henderson. And this predates Cam Henderson a little bit. And there's a lot of Marshall history out there that we just don't know about. So anytime somebody has a nugget like this, I just want to jump on it because this stuff is fascinating to hear.
I love it.
I hope you get to come home soon to the area, come and see Marshall basketball, be here for Will. Love to have you in studio if you ever get a chance to come up. And we're looking forward to seeing what Will and his brother do for the Thundering Herd. I appreciate you spending some time with us. And is there anything else about Will maybe we need to know, or his brother, before I let you go, that we missed?
Great. I mean, they're both great kids. I mean, they're great kids. Will actually has a twin sister. That might be something you don't know. She's not coming to Marshall, but the other two, Grant and Will be there, and they're going to help, and I'm excited to watch the development.
Is his sister good at basketball as he is?
She gave up basketball in middle school.
Okay.
So she got more into the arts. She was a really good volleyball player, but did give up basketball after middle school.
Okay, you can say Marshall women's basketball is really good these days, so maybe that would have been an opportunity for her.
That would have been a story right there now. 3 siblings at the same school, that would have been awesome.
I would have loved it. I appreciate you doing this today. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about Will, and hopefully we're talking about him for several years with Marshall.
I agree 100%. Thanks so much for having me.
I appreciate it. That is Fredrick Hurt, West Forsyth High School boys basketball head coach. We've been talking a little bit about Will Moore, also his brother Grant Moore, who's going to be walking on with the Thundering Herd. And, of course, his grandfather, Fredrick Hurt now, his grandfather played basketball at Marshall from 1933 to 1935. You know what? That sounds like some Woody Woodrum work right there to get some more details on him. We're going to get our break in. We'll take text now, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
At Progressive, we know money can't buy you happiness, but money did help you buy an RV, which means an excuse from working Saturday with your insufferable coworker, Dave. So money is helping you listen to birds chirp instead of Dave chirping about how his toddler is fluent in 3 languages. And it's also why you'll be smelling pine trees in the air, not Dave's tuna melt reheating in a microwave. So save money by bundling your RV or boat insurance with home or auto from Progressive and buy more happiness, or something close to it. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Tri-State Coalcat Baseball is saying thank you with special free admission. Free admission for Country Legends Night with Rob McNerlin. And free admission for Little Leaguers. Tuesday night is Country Legends Night. Wear your cowboy hat or cowboy boots and get in free. Music from Rob McNerlin beginning at 6. Wednesday night, Little Leaguers get in free by wearing a uniform jersey when accompanied by a separate paying adult. Be in the pregame ballpark parade. And it's Dollar Dog Night. The Coalcats take on the River Riders. Gates open at 6. Free admission to all cowboys, cowgirls, and Little Leaguers at Jack Cook Field.
Planning for a funeral is never easy, and selecting the right mortuary can be important. Family owned and operated for over 6 decades, our family has helped other families going through the most difficult time. Chapman's Mortuary and Crematory can help you plan arrangements today or offer a pre-need funeral plan in line with your intimate wishes. And now, we provide Huntington's only on-site crematory. Call us for a free consultation. Chapman's Mortuary and Crematory, serving the tri-state for over 60 years.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain.
But we don't speak Spanish.
So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks. Babbel's conversational method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish.
Estoy muy emocionado para ir a España contigo.
Aw, he just said, I'm very excited to go to Spain with you. Nos vamos a divertir mucho.
And that means we're going to have a lot of fun.
Sí. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Let the good times roll. Downtown Huntington's premier weekly music event is back. It's Mount West Ninth Street Live, presented by New Trail, Garage Beer, Big Truck, The Beast, La Marca Prosecco, and Matua Sauvignon Blanc. This Friday at City Heat. Music starts at 7 on the Marshall OBGYN stage. The Little Caesars Kid Zone is back, and Gomart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for Friday, August 2nd, when 9th Street is Dead, featuring John Ingram's Dead Center and the music of the Grateful Dead. The Thundering Herd Rally is Friday, August 16th. 9th Street Live is driven by Yes Chevy, Yes Ford every Friday night through Labor Day. 9th Street in Huntington between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Sponsored by Delta Hotels, Marshall OBGYN, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, City of Huntington, Marshall University, Impact Media, Xfinity, and Kindred Communications.
Buddy's All-American Barbecue is now in Milton. Enjoy all your favorite Buddy's classics like pulled pork, brisket, ribs, and more on East Main Street in Milton. Buddy's All-American Barbecue, the home of great barbecue, ice-cold beer, and killer wings in Huntington and now in Milton.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kathleen Eubanks-Ming with the American Academy of Family Physicians. Bullies use power, strength, or popularity to hurt others emotionally or physically. And while you can't be with your child all the time, there are ways you can help. If your child encounters a bully, tell them to get to a safe place and tell an adult. You can also show them how to block online bullies. Teach them they can be more than a bystander and that they can help their peers. For more on bullying, visit familydoctor.org or talk with your family physician.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. It's time we switch to longer-lasting Energy Star light bulbs. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Winner of the 2024 West Virginia Broadcasters Association Excellence in Broadcasting Award for Best Talk Show.
Welcome back to our Friday edition of The Drive here at ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. As promised, the text line is open. That's 304-396-TALK. 304-396-8255. Texter writes in and says, Paul, which Sun Belt Conference matchup are you looking most forward to this football season? App State is my choice. Maybe a revenge game with Coastal Carolina too? That's a good question. I appreciate it. I am looking forward to, I don't want to say all of them, because that's kind of a cop-out there. But if I'm going to rank them as far as the games that are circle games for me, if we're talking home games, App State leads the way as far as the conference foes are concerned, and then Coastal Carolina. I think those teams are 1 and 2 as far as the home schedule are concerned. For me, or home schedule, if you're going to look overall, I think App State, I'm going to say JMU as number 2, and then I'm right now at a toss-up between Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern. Here are my reasons. One, App State is a longtime foe of the Thundering Herd. We're going back to the Southern Conference days. They're also always going to be one of the top teams in the league. It's a good matchup. Their fans get after you. Marshall fans get after them. It's a good matchup. Respect App State. That's a matchup that every year I look forward to. Now, why did I say JMU? JMU's coming in here with a little swagger. They came into the Sun Belt. They got a little swagger about them. They have that swagger that maybe Marshall used to have going into the MAC from the Southern Conference. You remember that swagger? Marshall's trying to get that swagger back. JMU has that swagger. They think that they're just good at everything. And they're investing a lot of money into their program. They're investing in their athletic department. Student fees pay for a lot of things in their athletic department. They are managing to be competitive financially and, of course, on the field of play or the arena. But that's a team I love to see Marshall go up against. There's some rivalry there. There's some little swagger from them. Maybe rubs Herd fans wrong a little bit. I think that's my second matchup I'm looking forward to in conference. And then I like Georgia Southern. I like the tradition. I like the history between Marshall and Georgia Southern. It's maybe not as deep as it is with App State, but I like it. I like those people. They like to get after the Herd. Marshall likes getting after them. I'm here for it. So I would say Georgia Southern, but it's a toss-up with Coastal Carolina because I think that is a matchup that could develop into one of the top rivalries for Marshall and a lot of sports, not just football. And, of course, you mentioned the revenge aspect of that. Marshall lost 34-6 last year to Coastal Carolina. So you want to get a piece of that. I mean, Marshall lost to App State 31-9, so you want to get a piece of that as well. And then, of course, Marshall lost 20-9 to James Madison. You definitely want to get a piece of that. But if I'm ranking it, if you're talking revenge games only, I think App State, JMU, and Coastal. If you're talking about overall, I'm going to go App State, probably JMU, Georgia Southern, Coastal, as far as what I'm looking at. And it's really close. I like all those matchups. That's the one thing I like about the Sun Belt over Conference USA is that I like most of the matchups. There hasn't been a matchup yet in league that I just thought, I really don't care. Last year in the league, when Marshall played teams like South Alabama, I like the matchup. Arkansas State, I like those people. They get after it. They're into Arkansas State football there. And so this year's matchups, I like the East. I like the division Marshall's in. I absolutely think that you can't go wrong with it this year. you have on the schedule Southern Miss. Southern Miss and Marshall go way back. And I always felt that a good Southern Miss program in Conference USA meant that everybody was having a good season. Because I felt like Southern Miss was one of those programs that elevated, when good, elevated the league. And I would like to think that a good Southern Miss has some brand, and a good Southern Miss can help elevate the league again. But I don't see a matchup that I'm not looking forward to. Would ULM be the one that everyone looks at and goes, I don't know? I don't think that that's a bad matchup. I don't think that's a bad one at all. So the only one you really shake your head at, you look at the schedule this year, you go, okay, Stony Brook. That's a warm-up game. That's a game that gives you an opportunity to play a real game, see what you got, see what you need to work on, get yourself in a situation where you can go in and take on Virginia Tech. That's kind of how I evaluate that game. More text coming up, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've got the themes for the upcoming football season. Of course, we already knew that the Coastal Carolina game was going to be the 75 game. We've got the rest of the dates and what those themes are. We'll talk about that. And, of course, you might want to look into which game means the most to you. Is it App State? Is that the conference matchup you're looking forward to the most? Well, a lot of people might think that that is the date to circle. We'll talk about the theme dates that Marshall released when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cashback you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Skillet. And Seether. Live in Huntington. 'Cause there's a psycho in my head. Live at Marshall Health Network Arena. Friday, September 27th. Skillet and Seether together. Get tickets now at Ticketmaster.com.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, all dinners served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Did you know September 11th is a National Day of Service? We invite you to be kind with Volunteer West Virginia, because every mountaineer has the power to make a difference. Join in our statewide Day of Service, whether it's lending a hand or spreading kindness. In West Virginia, every mountaineer is a volunteer. Visit volunteer.wv.gov to find a volunteer opportunity near you. Brought to you by Volunteer West Virginia, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station.
2 new drinks are roaring onto the scene this summer at the Human Bean. For limited time, try drinks infused with dragon fruit, the Electric Dragon, and the Dragonade. The thrilling kick of bright lime meets the exotic taste of dragon fruit in the Electric Dragon. Or slay your thirst with Dragonade, where dragon fruit and black tea meet our delicious lemonade to create a drink that will keep you refreshed all day. Swoop in soon, because these flavors won't be here long. Locally owned and operated, serving you in Huntington at the P Ridge Plaza and in Ashland next to Ashland Community and Technical College.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your basement. There's a pair of overalls that overall you're not so into anymore. A perfectly good laptop that hasn't sat in your lap in months. And even more stuff, but still no jobs? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Even inside that winter coat that moved with you to Phoenix. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover guitar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Final segment, today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line this hour is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. A couple minutes ago, we went to the text line. Texter wanted to know what matchup I was looking forward to the most in conference. Well, I think we've got different reasons why to look forward to a lot of these matchups. Athletic department unveiled themes today. Now, this is more marketing than anything. This is marketing. But at the same time, there are a lot of reasons why you want to go to specific games, and here they are. First of all, it's the season opener, Marshall, Stony Brook. That's the We Are Marshall game. That's staff appreciation, a lot of community involvement, youth groups, things like that. So that's the first game on the schedule. That's the promo there. We Are Marshall. Hall of Fame weekend, that's September 28th. That's the Western Michigan game. Of course, the last time Marshall faced off against Western Michigan, it was a 31-21 victory for the Thundering Herd in 2004. So that's the Hall of Fame weekend, honoring the 2024 Hall of Fame inductees and commemorating, believe it or not, the 25th anniversary of Marshall's 1999 MAC championship. Going back a ways, aren't we? October 5th, it's App State. I circled that one already. Well, a lot of people are circling it because it's homecoming. That means homecoming king, homecoming queen. That means homecoming celebrations. Stripe the Joan. Our intern, Ben Anderson, are you going to run to be king? Marshall University, you're going to be homecoming king? Get the campaign going right now. Our intern, Ben Anderson, we're going to make him homecoming king at Marshall University. We just got to get him to sign up for it here. How do you sign up for that process, Ben? You got to figure that out. We're going to make Ben, or he's going to be homecoming king. We got to make that happen. Somebody help me out here. October 17th is going to be the We Are Thankful for Heroes game. That's against Georgia State. By the way, there's another reason why you want to circle App and then now Georgia State. Marshall lost to App 31-9 last season. Lost to Georgia State 41-21 last season. So that's the military appreciation game. There'll be a military flyover. Those are always fun. I don't know what we're going to see, but it's always fun to see something that we haven't seen before fly over. You know, a lot of appreciation for the military going on in that game. And then the game on November 2nd is going to be against ULM. That's the We Are Heard Strong game. That is cancer awareness, and it's Senior Day. Senior Day is going to be on November 2nd. That encourages fans to stand up against cancer. And, of course, you're honoring your seniors as well. So that's the game on November 2nd. And then the reason why you don't do Senior Day on November 16th, because that's the 75 game. We are playing for the 75. That's the marketing theme. Obviously, we know what that's about. That's commemorating the 75 that were lost in the Southern Airways Flight 932 crash. Marshall lost that game against Coastal last year, 34-6. So for a lot of Herd fans, maybe Coastal Carolina becomes the game, only because it's the 75 game and it shoots up the list. Doesn't matter the opponent, but it's always the game when it comes to how important it is. And if you are looking for a reason why to get after Coastal Carolina, you got the loss from last year. It's the 75 game. And say what you will about Doc Holliday. I know he was joking, maybe, but he said if those guys lost, they'd walk home. I think he was joking, maybe, but at the same time, that's how important this game is. It's not the most important game ever, but it is a yearly game where you just don't lose. Or at least that's the mindset they go in. It's like, look, there are a lot of other games to win. You know, we want to win a conference championship. We want to win a bowl game. We want to win all that, but we also cannot lose this game on November 16th. That's the mindset that's been carried over from the Doc Holliday era to now with Coach Huff. They do the special helmets. They do everything. They commemorate the tragedy and, of course, the rebirth of Marshall football. I know a lot of people put a lot of pressure on these kids, but I think that they also welcome it. Once they understand what that game means to the community, and, of course, playing against Coastal Carolina, while not an old rival, becoming a new rival, I think that will make that game pretty special this year. So if I'm going to circle games, I'm obviously circling at least the home schedule. App State won only because it's homecoming, it's App State, but I'm having a hard time saying Coastal is lower than 1. I'm saying it's 2, only in opponent-wise. As far as meaning is concerned, I think the 75 game has the more significant meaning to Marshall fans. Matchup-wise, App 1, Coastal 2. Game-wise, Coastal 1, App 2. I think that's the fair way to approach it. The matchup-wise, I'm looking at App State. That's my game I'm circling. If you're talking about just the game itself, Coastal's 2. And that's the home schedule that I'm talking about here, not the overall schedule. But I'm looking forward to some of these games as well. We really haven't talked much about Georgia State. And they did put a wallop on the Thundering Herd last season, beating Marshall by 20, 41-21. We haven't talked about them much. I don't know why. I don't know why they don't come up more. I guess it's because it's a newer rival. It's not a game that has a lot of history. I mean, Stony Brook doesn't have a lot of history, so, we overlook that game. Western Michigan has some history. We got to go back to the Mid-American Conference for that, but that has some history. I mean, Marshall and Western were playing for championships in the MAC back in the day. App State obviously has history. Coastal's moving along, getting some history there. ULM, more so than Georgia State. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our number to be a part of the program here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. What do you think? You think Marshall and ULM can get something going again? I mean, there's history there. For some, do you remember the history of that game? Do you understand what we're looking at? I'm looking at our intern, by the way. Ben Anderson, I'm looking directly at you. You're going to be the surrogate for a lot of people. Do you understand the importance of Marshall and UL Monroe? You do not. Okay, I'm going to defend Ben just a little bit. He's 20 years old. He's an intern. He's a sophomore at Marshall University. Junior, I apologize. Upperclassman. Junior at Marshall University. Doesn't understand the significance of Marshall and UL Monroe. Ben, this is your homework assignment. 1987, Pocatello, Idaho. You gotta know what that. Come on. There are just moments in you're Googling it on your phone now. There are just moments you have to know if you're going to be a Herd fan. There are just moments you should know and circle. And of course, Marshall playing for its first ever 1AA national championship, and George Chomp was the coach for the Thundering Herd. Marshall lost that game 43-42. So does that all of a sudden bring up some excitement for that game? I mean, we gotta look at it in history. Marshall would go on to have a good run, win a couple of national championships, compete for several at the 1AA level. But ULM, Marshall, one and only meeting, 1987. Ben is Googling that as we speak. He's just looking up all the details. Here's homework assignment for you. Who was the quarterback for ULM in 1987? Do you know that? Probably not. You got it because you Googled it. Yeah, Stan Humphries. He Googled it. Who's quarterback for the Thundering Herd in 1987? You don't know. You don't know. You got Stan Humphries because you Googled it. See, Ben, you got to put your phone down. You're Googling. It was not Michael Payton. It was not Michael Payton. Michael Payton would lead the Herd to the 1AA championship in 1992. So that goes back a little bit. Tony Peterson. Again, I'm going to defend Ben. He's 20. He's a Herd fan, but he doesn't know the history as well as some, and that's okay. He's learning now. Though these are the things you want to think about. We go back to 1987, Pocatello, Idaho. That was all the rage back in the day. Marshall going to its first ever 1AA championship, and Stan Humphries was the quarterback of the 1987 national champions, and he's, of course, in the ULM Hall of Fame. I would be too. I would be too if I was the quarterback of the 1987 national champions. Of course, he would go on to have a career. He would go on to have a career. He was a 6th-round draft pick for the Washington Redskins. He'd go on. What if Marshall would have won that game? How would that have transformed Marshall earlier? Of course, the push was on to get Marshall proper facility, proper stadium. The push was on. Marshall was at Fairfield Stadium in 1987. It's a parking lot now to a degree. But Marshall had turned it around from a program that was having difficulty having winning seasons, turned it around. George Chomp comes in, and then after that, after Chomp leaves, Jim Donning comes in and then gets Marshall to the championship game, wins that in 92. Later leaves for Georgia after having success with the Thundering Herd. Didn't last long at Georgia, but still, that's a game I think you have to circle a little bit now. It goes back a ways, and for some younger Herd fans, you don't know maybe the history or you're not that familiar with ULM just yet. But for a lot of us growing up at that time, I mean, that was a big moment in Marshall football history. Playing for the first ever national championship, Division I, lost it by 1 point, and then Marshall would have to wait a few years before it would get back to the national championship game. That's going to do it for this edition. For our producer, Ben Anderson, who's got homework to do this weekend, I'm Paul Swann. Don't forget, if you missed any part of today's show, you can go back and listen to it on our podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just wherever you get your podcast, you can get the show. And if you would, leave us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. And if you have a friend that you would like to share it with, go ahead and do that too. Let everybody know they can listen to the show daily on our podcast. That's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with you on Monday. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you then. Good night, everyone.
Retransmitting in glorious FM on 94.1 W227BS Huntington. This is 930 WRVC Huntington, celebrating 100 years of broadcasting.